Flashbulbs ignite the ballroom as Grant Whitaker basks in applause beside Sloane Mercer. Gilded banners shimmer. Cameras swarm like bees around a hive. Then the doors open and the room inhales. Amelia Hart steps through in a quiet emerald gown, arm in arm with billionaire Evan Hart, a poised 16-year-old at their side. Grant's smile slips. Memories strike like thunder. Reporters pivot. The MC hesitates. Power tilts, as if the chandeliers lean closer. He invited humiliation's target. Instead, he summoned his reckoning. Tonight, the woman he discarded will command the story, and the world will witness. Every camera catching his collapse. Love emotional billionaire drama with real twists? Subscribe now and enable notifications so you never miss an episode. Like this video to push it to more viewers. Comment your favorite moment as you watch. Whose choice hit hardest and why? Share with friends who crave soulful redemption arcs, courtroom-level tension, and poetic justice. Your engagement fuels new scripts, richer scenes, and weekly uploads crafted for smooth voiceover pacing. Join our community. Help us grow this channel into the home for irresistible romance and power shift stories. Ready? Tap subscribe, like, and share, then settle in for tonight's unforgettable journey. Thanks for being here. 16 years ago, the betrayal? 16 years earlier, the city hummed beyond Whitaker Tower, while Amelia Brooks balanced a paper bag of soup and strawberries. 6 months pregnant, she took the executive elevator, rehearsing a playful line for Grant about cravings and deadlines. The glass corridor felt colder than usual. His office door was ajar, voices hushed within. She paused, smiled, and nudged it wider. Perfume she didn't know drifted out, expensive and sharp. Sloane Mercer's laugh curled through the air like ribbon. Amelia's heart pressed against her ribs. Grant's tie hung loose. Sloane's hands fixed it. Strawberries slid from the bag, thudding softly. Floor. Grant straightened, surprise flashing, then irritation. "Amelia, we're in a meeting," he said, smoothing his collar as if respect could be buttoned on. Sloane, poised and polished, offered a glove smile. "We were discussing possibilities," she purred. Grant gestured toward a folder embossed with a crest. "Senator Mercer's proposal," he continued. "Strategic support, statewide donors, television exposure, the whole machine." Amelia set the soup on his desk, noticing her hands tremble. "We're expecting," she whispered, more to herself. Grant's gaze cooled, which is why timing matters. The senator believes a different partnership will accelerate everything. For us, for the future. Amelia blinked, the word partnership scraping across her. "You mean marriage," she said, steadying her voice. Sloane's eyes glinted. "Alignment," she corrected. Velvet over steel. "My father clears paths. Doors open. People listen." Grant exhaled, pacing as if the floor might compose his thoughts. "This is bigger than feelings," he said. "Influence. Legacy." Finally stepping into rooms that matter. Amelia touched her belly, instinctively shielding life. "We matter," she murmured. "Our family matters." Grant turned, jaw locked. "You're a good woman, Amelia, but you'll anchor me. I can't drag weight while climbing." Ambition, unforgiving, eclipsed every promise he'd made yesterday. He reached into the drawer and produced a crisp envelope, sliding it across polished wood. "Sign and I can move," he said softly, as if gentleness could excuse treachery. Amelia didn't touch it. "You're asking me to erase myself," she whispered. Grant's expression hardened. "I'm telling you the truth. You're a burden I can't afford." Sloane's posture didn't falter. She studied Amelia like an obstacle on a blueprint. "This is inevitable," Sloane offered, almost tender. "You'll thank us one day." The pen tip scratched. Grant's signature unfurled like a severing ribbon. He chose ambition, neatly, irrevocably. Paper cut heaven's quiet. Grant pressed the envelope into a messenger's hand and shrugged into his jacket. Already somewhere else. He didn't notice the soup dripping across reports, or strawberries softening on the rug. "Send maintenance," he muttered to no one. Amelia stood alone in the office's hush, the city's glitter mocking the ache inside. Security hovered politely, trained to move problems without making headlines. "Mrs. Whitaker?" one asked. She lifted her chin. "It's just Amelia," she answered, and walked past him with what grace she could gather. In the elevator, her reflection looked like someone fading mid-sentence. She breathed, counted, refused a break. Outside, winter light scraped along the glass canyons and traffic stitched a restless hymn. Amelia stepped onto the plaza, palms splayed over the child turning within. Tears threatened. She blinked them back, tasting steel. A gust lifted her coat, and with it, something old loosened. Fear, permission, the need to be chosen. She faced Whitaker Tower once more. "You took my name," she whispered, "but not my future." Her breath fogged and vanished. Somewhere a siren wailed, pigeons scattered. She squared her shoulders, turned toward the subway, and began. The vows settled in her bones like fireproofing. "Witness me rise again." By evening, a glossy headline crowned Grant's decision. Whitaker, Mercer Alliance signals major run. Photos showed Sloane's diamond like a chandelier caught in lightning. Commentators praised strategy. Donors dialed numbers. Calendars shifted. In a small apartment across town, Amelia folded baby clothes that smelled of detergent and hope. She boxed their wedding china without cracking a plate. Her phone buzzed with messages. She didn't answer. A neighbor slid a casserole through the doorway and said nothing. Night fell slow and blue. Amelia opened her laptop, searched scholarships, and wrote the first line of a new life. The cursor kept company. 2 mornings later, Grant sat beneath flags in Senator Mercer's paneled office, the air thick with victory's aftershave. The senator tapped a fountain pen. "Optics are clean," he said. "We'll position compassion, a marriage built on shared service." Sloane crossed her legs, smiling with the efficiency of a contract. Grant nodded, a fresh suit armoring his doubt. "And Amelia?" he asked lightly, as if taste-testing danger. "Irrelevant," Sloane said. The story moves forward. The senator folded his hands. "Deliver the numbers. Stay disciplined. We'll take care of any debris." Grant swallowed, ambition blotting out the echo of strawberries and vows. In a clinic humming with soft machines, a wand tray circles, and a heartbeat leapt like drumlight, Amelia watched the screen, relief loosening her shoulders. "Healthy," the technician smiled. Walking out, she bought a notebook and wrote 3 columns. Bills, opportunities, skills. She circled skills twice. A diner hired her for nights. A community center offered afternoon tutoring. Between shifts, she taught herself Python, scraping tutorials like rainwater into a bucket. Every keystroke bordered grief and grit. When exhaustion pressed, she counted beats. 1 for survival, 2 for grace, 3 for tomorrow's child. She would not be erased again ever. Snow flirted with the streetlights as she reached the subway, breath silvering the air. A bus rumbled by, carrying an advertisement with Grant's unervingly confident smile. Amelia met it head-on, unblinking, until it vanished into the turn. She pressed a palm to her belly and whispered to the future listening inside, "I don't know how yet, but we will be all right." The turnstile clicked. The platform hummed. A train arrived with space for one more story. Amelia stepped aboard, shoulders squared, vow lit steady as a lantern. Behind her, the tower dwindled, but her courage kept getting taller tonight. Rebuilding from ruins and finding love. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and rain. Alone, Amelia gripped the metal rail as contractions roared like thunder through her spine. No husband hand, no family waiting, just resolve breathing beside pain. The nurse whispered encouragements, counting to the rhythm. Hours crawled. Dawn cracked open across blinds. Then a cry, fragile yet fierce, split the silence. Amelia looked down at her newborn son and whispered, "Caleb." His tiny fingers curled around hers as if claiming safety. She kissed his forehead, tears washing exhaustion into promise. "It's you and me now," she said softly. The world had broken her. Motherhood rebuilt her strength. Weeks later, the apartment's thin walls echoed with lullabies and determination. Amelia rocked Caleb to sleep while bills glared from the table. Each night, exhaustion clawed her eyes, yet she kept typing. Online tutorials became her teachers. Curiosity her survival. She learned coding basics, patching software between feedings. A small idea formed, an app that could tutor children who couldn't afford lessons. She called it Smart Roots. Hope coded itself into each command line. The nights were long, but progress hummed steady. Pain had become direction. Every keystroke whispered one vow. I will never let him grow inside anyone's pity. A year later, Smart Roots caught attention at a community tech fair in Chicago. Amelia arrived with Caleb, now a toddler clutching her scarf, while volunteers helped her set up. The banner wobbled in recycled wind, learning from any corner. Her voice trembled to the microphone, but her conviction steadied her. She spoke of perseverance, mothers teaching through hardship, education as escape. The audience listened, clapping before she finished. Among them, one man stayed behind, Evan Hart, CEO of Hart Innovations. You built this alone? He asked. She nodded shyly. Between naps, his eyes softened. Then let's build something extraordinary from those same nights. The following week, Evan invited her to his foundation's headquarters. The building's glass walls intimidated her, yet his office carried warmth instead of wealth. He studied her prototype in silence, admiration replacing surprise. You've turned struggle into strategy, he said. You just need structure. Amelia bit her lip. And faith. He smiled. I've got enough for both of us. Their partnership began with spreadsheets and ended with laughter echoing across late nights. Respect grew quietly between them, mutual and steady. When she spoke, he listened fully. When she hesitated, he believed first. Two resilient hearts started learning to trust again. Months unfolded into milestones. Smart Roots entered public testing through Evan's network of schools. Amelia handled presentations, while Evan championed her vision publicly. Reporters labeled her the woman who turned failure into code. She blushed at headlines, but kept working. Evenings found her teaching Caleb to read, while Evan visited with dinner and gentle smiles. You never stop, he'd say admiringly. Because stopping once cost me everything, she'd reply. Their conversations lingered past midnight. Admiration ripened into affection. Evan's care never demanded attention. It offered presence. One night by Lake Michigan, he said, "Peace suits you." She smiled. It's been waiting 16 years. Partnership turned to companionship, then family. Evan included Caleb naturally, attending birthdays, science fairs, and small triumphs. The boy began calling him Dad, before anyone explained why that felt right. Amelia hesitated once, fearing confusion. Evan said gently, "He's free to love whoever stays." The word stayed with her forever. Their company, now renamed Hart Innovations, revolutionized classroom learning with free AI tools. Investors praised strategy. Communities praised impact. When Evan proposed, it was quiet, sincere, no audience required. Let's build life, not empires, he said. Her yes was calm, full of peace. Healing had finally learned to sound like laughter. Their wedding took place in a small garden surrounded by magnolias. No orchestra, no audience, just love beneath string lights. Caleb tossed petals, giggling. Evan slipped a ring onto her finger and whispered, "Home, at last." The wind carried laughter between vows. That night, Amelia journaled. Pain can't erase love. It refines it. Their honeymoon wasn't beaches, but volunteering at a rural school where students shared crayons like gold. Joy returned disguised as service. Peace settled where ambition once roared. For the first time in years, Amelia woke without fear. Even silence felt kind. She'd learned that victory could whisper softly. Back in Chicago, Hart Innovations expanded nationally. Their software cut education costs by half, bridging gaps between privilege and poverty. Amelia, now co-founder and strategist, became the company's face of empathy. Interviews praised her resilience. She credited teamwork. Caleb, growing fast, spent evenings coding beside her, inheriting her focus. Meanwhile, Grant's name surfaced often in political debates. His success loud but hollow. Amelia rarely read headlines. She'd stopped needing validation. Peace, she realized, wasn't loud like revenge. It was steady like forgiveness. Her purpose no longer needed Grant's failure to shine. Her life was proof that storms can water destiny. Grant's world glittered publicly, but cracked privately. Sloane's perfection dulled. Her affection came with contracts and conditions. "You owe my father this seat," she'd whisper whenever his conscience stirred. Grant's reflection started to look like a stranger rehearsing charm. At banquets, applause felt borrowed. He sometimes dreamed of Amelia's laughter, the sound of sincerity, and woke up choking on regret. Yet pride kept him smiling for cameras. Every success felt counterfeit. Every silence screamed her name. He drank ambition to sleep, but no whiskey dulled conscience. He'd traded the woman who believed for one who calculated. The exchange haunted every victory. 16 years built 2 empires, one born of love, another of lies. Amelia's foundation thrived, funding digital literacy programs across America. Caleb, now 16, prepared to showcase his AI project at Heart's annual summit. "You're better than I ever was," she told him. He grinned, "because you showed me how to fall forward." Evan watched him fondly, pride quiet but visible. Meanwhile, Grant prepared to headline his grandest event yet, the Governor's Circle Gala. Invitations glimmered gold. Ironically, Heart Innovations appeared among corporate sponsors. Fate smiled. The same night Grant planned his glory, destiny prepared Amelia's seat right beside the spotlight. The rise of a queen. Heart Innovations became the heartbeat of American education reform. Under Amelia's leadership, its AI tools reached thousands of classrooms, giving children equal chances to learn. Media hailed her as the mother of modern learning. Still, she kept her morning simple, breakfast with Evan and Caleb before heading to the office. The walls of her new home carried laughter instead of echoes. At conferences, her calm authority stunned audiences who expected arrogance. Evan handled expansion. She handled hearts. Success didn't make her louder. It made her lighter. After years of survival, Amelia finally existed beyond pain. Triumph had learned humility's language. Caleb thrived under their quiet guidance. 16 years old, tall and thoughtful, he carried both his mother's perseverance and Evan's gentleness. He spent weekends volunteering at tech clubs, teaching coding to kids younger than him. "We live by sharing what we know," Amelia often reminded him. Reporters adored their story, a mother and son shaping a brighter world. But Amelia kept one truth private. Her peace was a revenge. It was release. She no longer flinched at Grant's name. Her heart, once fractured, had turned resilient. Watching Caleb present at innovation summits, she saw proof that grace can outgrow even betrayal. Meanwhile, Grant's campaign trail shone bright with endorsements but dimmed in sincerity. His speeches repeated promises of integrity and progress, words heavy with irony. Sloane's father, Senator Mercer, controlled strategy meetings, funding, even phrasing. "Smile wider," he'd instruct. Sloane perfected that smile too, sharp, marketable, hollow. Behind curtains, she criticized Grant's every move, her affection proportional to poll numbers. Nights brought insomnia and noise. He'd replay Amelia's voice, saying, "We matter, but politics drown memory." Despite wealth, something missing kept bleeding inside him. Power filled calendars, not emptiness. Public applause couldn't silence private ghosts. The mirror reflected ambition, never contentment. Back in Chicago, Amelia delivered a keynote titled Education with Empathy. Standing before leaders, she spoke without slides, her voice steady. Technology should not replace teachers. It should amplify humanity. The crowd rose to their feet. Later, journalists surrounded her. One asked, "What drives you after everything?" She smiled. "Grace. It never fails, only finds new forms." Her words trended overnight. Evan watched proudly from the audience, whispering to Caleb, "That's strength, quiet but seismic." That evening, they celebrated with street tacos and laughter. Amelia looked at her family, realizing love didn't need grandeur. True fulfillment felt like ordinary joy practiced daily. Grant's headline shifted toward whispers of corruption surrounding campaign funds. The Mercer Foundation quietly redirected donations to bury traces. "Handle it," Senator Mercer demanded. Grant obeyed, but sleepless guilt returned heavier. Sloane sensed cracks and tightened control. "One scandal and you're finished," she warned coldly. Grant nodded, drained. The irony stung. He once chased influence. Now influence owned him. Cameras caught smiles. His eyes confessed exhaustion. Meanwhile, voters adored his image. The hypocrisy gnawed quietly while his marriage deteriorated in staged affection. He didn't know destiny was crafting a stage far grander than politics, where truth would broadcast louder than speeches. One autumn evening, Amelia returned home early. Evan was sketching plans for a new community lab. Caleb tinkered with circuit boards. The smell of roasted vegetables filled the kitchen. She paused, taking in the sight, her family wrapped in light and laughter. "Remember when it was just us and instant noodles?" she teased. Evan chuckled. "Now we explore hope instead of hunger." Caleb grinned. "And Dad burns fewer toasts." They all laughed until tears came. For Amelia, these ordinary moments meant more than any award. She realized joy wasn't built in crowds. It grew in rooms where peace stayed overnight. Days later, invitations to the Governor's Circle Gala arrived embossed in gold. The event promised prestige, celebrating influential partnerships in politics and technology. Amelia's assistant delivered the envelope excitedly. "You're a featured honoree," she announced. Amelia smiled, setting aside. Later, Evan scanned the guest list. His brows lifted slightly. "Grant Whitaker," he murmured. Silence stretched, then Amelia shrugged. "Let the past attend too." Caleb looked curious. "That's your ex-husband, right?" She nodded calmly. "He built a tower, I built a bridge." Her tone carried peace, not pain. Destiny's threads tightened quietly around an evening that would test every lesson. Grant rehearsed his speech obsessively for the gala. "Vision, unity, resilience," he muttered before mirrors. Advisors praised his charisma, unaware of panic nesting behind practiced smiles. The Mercer family planned the evening to announce Grant's official run for governor. "This is your moment," Sloane reminded him, lips precise as policy. Cameras, donors, voters, all lined up to worship the illusion. Yet deep down, Grant sensed a shift approaching, like air before thunder. He didn't know Hard Innovations was listed among top sponsors. Fate enjoyed irony. Tomorrow, the woman he discarded would attend his triumph. Uninvited yet indispensable to his undoing. On the morning of the gala, Amelia adjusted her emerald gown in the mirror. The color mirrored calm, not competition. Evan buttoned his suit jacket behind her. "You sure about tonight?" he asked softly. "Absolutely," she said. "Closure deserves confidence." Caleb straightened his tie, smiling nervously. "We'll clap the loudest, Mom." They left home as golden sunlight folded across the skyline. News crews already filled the venue hours early. As their car approached the marble steps, flashes began. Somewhere inside, Grant straightened his cufflinks, unaware that Destiny's guest list included justice. The night spotlight would reveal both empire and emptiness. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, journalists, and donors in jewel gowns. Grant greeted governors, shaking hands like transactions. Sloane dazzled on his arm, every diamond screaming validation. Music swelled. Cameras rolled. Then murmurs rippled near the entrance. Heads turned. Amelia walked in, elegant, confident. Evan beside her, Caleb a step behind. Time paused. Grant's smile cracked like porcelain. The MC stuttered before recovering. "Please welcome our keynote sponsors, Heart Innovations." Applause thundered, but not for him. In that instant, ambition tasted humility. The night designed to crown Grant's power had just crowned the woman he underestimated 16 years ago. The invitation to destiny. Grant's pulse quickened as Amelia's name echoed through the hall. Cameras pivoted, flashes bursting like fireworks. He forced a grin, but his fingers twitched at his cufflinks. Sloane leaned closer, whispering, "Keep smiling." Her voice sliced more than soothed. Amelia moved the crowd gracefully, greeting senators and CEOs who once ignored her. Evan's hand rested lightly at her back. Caleb followed, recording the moment with quiet pride. The MC introduced her as America's leading visionary for educational reform. Grant's throat tightened. Applause filled every space as confidence used occupy. Fate had planned symmetry with surgical precision. Amelia stood at the podium beneath cascading chandeliers. Her calm presence hushed the room. Innovation, she began, means nothing without integrity. She spoke of schools rebuilt through technology, of children once left behind now dreaming bigger. Progress is measured not by profit, but by hearts lifted. Every sentence struck deeper than applause. Evan watched, proud. Caleb whispered, "She's unstoppable." Across the hall, Grant's forced smile trembled. Each word felt like judgment disguised as inspiration. Sloane folded her arms, jaw tight. Reporters scribbled furiously, sensing a headline. The woman he dismissed as fragile now redefined strength beneath his own campaign banners. When Amelia finished, standing ovations followed like thunder rolling over marble. Grant clapped too, hiding shaking hands. The MC announced dinner, but attention stayed glued to her table. Influential donors drifted toward Heart Innovations, abandoning political elites. Sloane leaned close to Grant. "Control yourself," she hissed. "Smile through it." He obeyed, swallowing humiliation. When photographers requested a group shot, Amelia smiled professionally beside him. Not warmly. "Governor Hopeful, meet real hope," someone joked lightly. Laughter rippled. Grant forced another grin, each muscle aching with regret. For the first time, Ambition's trophy tasted metallic, cold, sharp, and impossible to swallow. The evening progressed into the charity segment. A holographic display showcased Heart Innovations transparency software, a civic platform exposing unethical funding trails through AI mapping. Amelia narrated confidently, unaware of the storm she was summoning. Data streams appeared in glowing threads, connecting donations, companies, and campaigns. Within seconds, the algorithm highlighted suspicious loops. Gasps scattered across the ballroom. One red thread blinked repeatedly beside the Mercer Foundation's logo, directly tied to Grant's gubernatorial fund. Silence swallowed laughter. Cameras zoomed closer. Evan glanced at Amelia, realization dawning. Grant froze mid-breath. Sloane's wine glass tilted. Fate had arrived disguised as technology's truth. Reporters erupted into whispers. Cell phones lit like constellations. The MC stammered, attempting humor. Minor technical glitch." Amelia frowned to screen, then turned to the tech crew. "Pause feed, please." But damage was done. Screenshots already scattered online. Grant's campaign manager paled. Senator Mercer's aide stormed out. Phone pressed to ear. Sloane leaned toward Grant, eyes blazing. "You said those accounts were buried," she hissed. "I didn't know she'd," Grant began, then stopped. Amelia faced the audience calmly. "Transparency isn't about politics. It's about accountability." The crowd erupted again, half applause, half outrage. History pivoted on one blinking red thread. Security personnel swarmed discreetly as guests buzzed louder. Sloane's composure cracked for the first time. "We need to leave," she demanded. Grant adjusted his tie mechanically, the gesture of a man trying to stay upright inside an earthquake. Amelia stepped aside from the stage, whispering to Evan, "I didn't mean to expose anyone tonight." He answered gently, "Truth doesn't wait for permission." Caleb watched wide-eyed. "Mom, everyone's filming." She nodded quietly. "Let them." The cameras captured everything. The woman once silenced, now standing tall. The man once powerful, now shrinking behind flashing lights. Karma didn't shout. It simply illuminated screens. Backstage corridors buzzed like hornets. Grant cornered Amelia near the curtain, desperation softening arrogance. "You think you're better than me now?" he snapped. She faced him steadily. "No, Grant. I just learned to live without needing your kind of love." His jaw clenched. "You ruined me." She shook her head slowly. "No, Grant. You built that ruin yourself." Footsteps echoed. Caleb appeared behind her, holding Evan's jacket. Grant's eyes flickered between them. Something human breaking through regret. "Who's that?" he asked hoarsely. Amelia's gaze didn't waver. "Your son." For a heartbeat, everything, ambition, power, facade, crumbled into quiet, devastating recognition. Grant's face drained of color. "My son," he whispered, stepping closer. Caleb's brows furrowed, confusion knitting his features. Evan placed a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. "You don't get to claim what you abandoned," he said calmly. Grant's voice cracked. "I didn't know." Amelia interrupted gently. "You didn't ask." He looked at her belly in memory, haunted by choices sealed in ink. The hallway echoed with reporters shouting questions beyond the curtain. Amelia exhaled softly. "This is not my revenge, Grant. It's simply truth catching up." His eyes glistened, but pride still chained his apology. The cameras waited patiently. Suddenly, Sloane stormed to the corridor, fury igniting every diamond she wore. "You destroyed everything," she screamed, shoving Grant's chest. "Do you realize what this means for my father?" Her voice cracked under rage and fear. "All of it gone." Grant reached for her arm, but she recoiled, ripping off her wedding ring. "You were supposed to be our puppet, not our downfall." The ring clattered across marble. Cameras flashed through the doorway just in time to capture her storming out, tears cutting through makeup. Reporters swarmed like vultures. Grant sank against the wall, spotlight finding him again, this time mercilessly. As chaos spread outside, Amelia, Evan, and Caleb exited through a side corridor. The night air felt like freedom, sharp and cold. Cameras still followed, flashes chasing closure. Amelia paused beneath the gallows banner, exhaustion softening triumph. She glanced at Evan, who reached for her hand. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded faintly. "Yes." Finally, Caleb looked between them, uncertain but proud. As they walked to their car, Amelia's hand drifted to her stomach unconsciously. Evan noticed, smiling gently. "Are you?" She met his eyes, warmth breaking through fatigue. "Yes," she whispered. "It's our miracle." Destiny had just promised restoration. The grand gala, tables turned, morning headlines exploded across every screen. Governor Hopeful Grant Whitaker exposed at charity gala. News anchors replayed the footage, his stunned face, Sloane's public exit, Amelia's calm. Political analysts debated downfall and destiny. Inside their penthouse, Sloane's father shouted into phones, his empire unraveling faster than strategy could mend it. Meanwhile, Amelia woke peacefully, sunlight kissing her cheek. Evan poured coffee beside her. "You changed everything last night," he said. She smiled faintly. "Truth did." Caleb entered, holding a newspaper. "They're talking about you, Mom." She ruffled his hair. "Let them talk. I've got nothing left to hide anymore." Grant stayed indoors, curtains drawn. Reporters camped outside his gate, while former allies distanced themselves with press releases. Empty whiskey glasses littered the coffee table. The television repeated Amelia's keynote on loop, her voice haunting yet healing. "Innovation means nothing without integrity," she said again. He muted the screen, sinking into silence heavy enough to bruise thought. In the quiet, Caleb's face replayed in memory. The eyes, the resemblance, the innocence he never met. Regret clawed through denial. The mansion felt like an expensive grave. He had everything money could buy and nothing love could mend. Loneliness applauded his every breath. Meanwhile, the world celebrated Amelia. Invitations poured in from universities, corporations, and media outlets. She accepted none for now. "I need stillness," she told Evan. They took weekend trips to the countryside, where quiet fields replaced flashing lights. Caleb joined them, sketching ideas for a youth coding club. "You're building future leaders," Evan said proudly. Amelia rested her head on his shoulder. "No, just giving kids the tools I once prayed for." For the first time, success didn't chase validation. It flowed from gratitude. She'd once begged for closure. Now she lived in it. Healing wasn't loud. It simply breathed. Grant's life unraveled publicly. The Mercer Foundation cut ties within days. Political donors withdrew pledges. Sloane filed for divorce. Her statement brief and icy. Irreconcilable differences in ethics. Late-night hosts joked about the fastest moral collapse in campaign history. Each punchline carved deeper. Grant stared at his reflection, half hating, half mourning it. He opened a drawer, finding Amelia's old letter, the one she left on his desk years ago. You took my name, not my strength. The ink had faded, but the message burned brighter. He whispered, I should have listened. The mirror didn't answer. It only showed a man unrecognizable to himself. Weeks turned into months. Grant attempted damage control, granting interviews about miscommunication and unintended oversight. Public sympathy never arrived. Sloane's father privately ensured he remained blacklisted from future campaigns. He sold the mansion, moving into a smaller apartment downtown, unnoticed and uninvited. One evening, he caught sight of Amelia on television again, accepting an innovation award beside Evan and Caleb. She glowed with grace, her laughter sincere. Grant muted the applause, gripping his glass until knuckles whitened. That should have been us, he muttered, voice cracking. Regret answered softly. It was never you. The screen faded, but memory refused to dim. At Heart Innovations, momentum surged. Amelia's transparency software became a national standard for ethical donations and educational equity. Evan expanded the company globally, while Amelia focused on community mentorship. Caleb prepared to graduate high school early, his inventions attracting scholarships. During an interview, he said, My mom taught me courage doesn't always win quickly, but it wins completely. The quote went viral. Amelia read the article, smiling through tears. She once dreamed of stability. Now she'd built legacy. Every hardship, every sleepless night, had rewritten her name in history. Not as victim, but as vision. Grace had finally collected interest. One gray afternoon, Grant saw Amelia's family photo in the newspaper. She stood beside Evan and Caleb, glowing. The headline read, The Family That Rebuilt Education. Grant traced the image slowly. My son, he whispered, voice breaking. The realization hit harder than scandal ever could. He'd traded legacy for headlines, love for leverage. His hand trembled as he folded the page carefully, tucking it into his wallet. That night, he sat on the balcony, wind biting against his regrets. If I could start again, he began, but words died halfway. Even the stars seemed distant, unwilling to witness repentance. Months later, Amelia felt life stir again within her. Unexpected but miraculous. The doctor smiled during her checkup. You're perfectly healthy, he said. You're glowing. She laughed softly. 40 and still full of surprises. Evan kissed her forehead. A new beginning, he whispered. Caleb, now preparing for college, hugged her gently. Another sibling? That's wild. Amelia smiled. Life just doubled its blessings. The pregnancy news never reached tabloids. She kept it sacred. Each heartbeat reminded her how endings bloom into beginnings. Where pain once lived, creation now thrived. Destiny had completed its circle, turning ashes into warmth, tears into twin laughter. Grant received the news accidentally through an old acquaintance. Did you hear? The man said casually. Amelia Hart's expecting twins. Grant's breath caught mid-sentence. He smiled faintly, a painful mixture of pride and loss. Twins, he repeated quietly, almost reverently. That evening, he watched the televised awards ceremony honoring Heart Innovations again. The audience roared as Amelia accepted another humanitarian prize. Grant whispered, You won, Amelia, and you did it beautifully. No bitterness, no envy, just recognition. He turned off the TV, tears tracing silent apologies down his face. Redemption hadn't come for him, but witnessing hers felt enough. Spring arrived with sunlight filtering through hospital curtains. Amelia held her newborn twin daughters, tiny and perfect, each wrapped in pink blankets. Evan stood beside her, eyes glistening with awe. Caleb entered quietly, leaning over to kiss their foreheads. They're everything, he said softly. Amelia smiled weakly. Double the joy, double the grace. Evan whispered, You lost everything once. Now you have it back. Twice over. She nodded, peace flooding her chest. Outside, cameras announced Heart Innovations' next milestone. Inside, love wrote its quiet sequel. Somewhere across town, Grant saw the headline, whispered congratulations, and finally let himself cry. The fall and the regret, Night cloaked Chicago in soft hums of rain and city lights. Grant sat alone by the window of his modest apartment, his reflection fractured by droplets. He replayed everything, the affair, the choices, the arrogance disguised as ambition. Each memory stabbed sharper than scandal ever did. He whispered to no one, "I lost her before I even understood her worth." The television murmured Amelia's recent interview, her calm voice filling the silence. "We rise by choosing grace over grief." Grant exhaled shakily. "And I chose neither." The city outside moved on, but regret made time pause mercilessly for him. At Heart Innovations, Amelia returned from maternity leave glowing with new purpose. Her twin daughters, Hope and Faith, had become everyone's inspiration. The company now launched programs supporting single mothers in tech. During a press briefing, a reporter asked, "What drives your compassion?" She smiled, "Because I know what it's like to start with nothing." The audience applauded, but her humility silenced arrogance more effectively than applause ever could. Evan watched proudly as she carried both leadership and motherhood gracefully. Caleb adjusted cameras, whispering, "That's my mom." Every lens captured not power, but peace, a rare kind of authority earned through pain. Meanwhile, Grant received a court notice. Mercer's firm demanded repayment of campaign loans. His remaining savings couldn't cover half. "You're on your own," the letter ended coldly. Friends stopped answering his calls. He walked through downtown unnoticed, stripped of titles, his shadow longer than relevance. A charity billboard displayed Amelia's face, promoting education for girls. He stopped heart-heavy. "Even her kindness outruns me," he muttered. In another life, he might have been beside her on that journey. Instead, he was a cautionary tale walking through morning fog. Fate hadn't punished him. It had simply let him watch what he forfeited. Evan found Amelia sitting on their porch one quiet evening, bottle-feeding the twins as sunset gilded the sky. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, just thinking how life is loops. 16 years ago, I held Caleb the same way, alone. Now, everything feels rewritten. He sat beside her, touching her hand. "It's beautiful how strength rebuilds." She smiled. "It's mercy, not strength." Inside, Caleb played guitar softly for his sisters. Laughter spilled through open windows. The scent of home cooking floated out. Amelia closed her eyes, inhaling contentment. Redemption hadn't arrived with fireworks. It came wearing peace and lullabies. Grant found himself drawn to charity events hosted by Heart Innovations. He never approached, only watched in the crowd. Once, he saw Caleb speaking confidently about youth innovation. Pride mixed with grief. "He's everything I could have been if I'd chosen right," Grant thought. A reporter mistook him for a volunteer and handed him a brochure. He smiled faintly. "In a way, I am." The irony wasn't lost. His presence now contributed quietly to a legacy he'd tried to crush. Sometimes redemption doesn't arrive in ownership. It arrives in witnessing goodness thrive without you and choosing to cheer instead of envy. Months passed, and Amelia received an unexpected letter. No sender name, only a short note inside. "Thank you for teaching me integrity, even if I learned it too late." Attached was a small donation receipt to her foundation, signed anonymously. She recognized the handwriting immediately, Grant's. Instead of anger, she felt compassion. She placed a note in her journal beneath a new entry. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's freedom without permission." Evan found her smiling faintly later. "Old ghosts," he teased. She nodded, resting peacefully now. She didn't reply to the letter. Some closures are quieter than goodbye could ever be. Grant began volunteering secretly at a local youth center, teaching teenagers public speaking. He never mentioned politics, only honesty. The director once asked, "You seem familiar." He smiled. "Just someone trying to make amends." His lessons became popular, his humility surprising. One evening, he overheard kids debating Amelia's speech. "She's amazing," one said. "She changed everything." Grant's eyes welled up, pride softening regret. "Yes," he whispered, "she did." That night, walking home beneath streetlights, he felt lighter. He'd never reclaim his past, but he could guard others from repeating it. For the first time, failure started to feel useful. Caleb's graduation drew national attention. His scholarship to Stanford announced live. The crowd erupted as Amelia and Evan watched proudly from the front row, holding the twins. "He did it," Evan whispered. "We did it," Amelia corrected gently. Cameras captured the family hug that followed, symbolizing triumph over tragedy. Reporters later called it the moment Grace beat greed. Across town, Grant watched the ceremony broadcast from a cafe window. Tears blurred the image, but he smiled anyway. "That's my boy," he whispered through trembling lips. For once, the words carried no ownership. Only love released freely into the wind. Weeks later, Grant's health declined quietly. Years of stress and solitude caught up. The landlord found him one morning, slumped peacefully in his chair, the newspaper still open to an article about Heart Innovation's latest award. On his desk lay Amelia's old photo, folded neatly, and a final note scrawled unevenly. "I see now what love was meant to be. Tell Caleb I'm proud." The world barely noticed his passing, but destiny had already written his eulogy through hers. His legacy wasn't power. It was the lesson he left behind. Regret, softened by understanding, finally found its rest. Amelia received the news days later. She sat quietly, staring at the rain beyond her office window. No anger, no joy, just solemn gratitude that life had ended his suffering. She whispered, "Rest now, Grant." Evan entered softly, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I think I finally am." That evening, she gathered her family, holding her daughters close as Caleb played gentle melodies. The house glowed with warmth, laughter, and peace. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, not in warning but remembrance. The storm had passed. Love, unbroken, undeserved, unstoppable, had written the final line of their story. The new dawn, double blessings. Months drifted softly after Grant's passing. Amelia often found herself watching the sunrise from her office window, coffee warming her palms. Chicago glimmered below, alive and forgiving. She no longer saw skyscrapers as reminders of ambition, but as testaments of rebuilding. Evan entered quietly, the twins toddling beside him. "You're lost in thought," he teased. She smiled faintly, just remembering how far we've come. Their daughters giggled, chasing sunlight on the rug. Life no longer whispered pain. It hummed with continuity. Every dawn reminded Amelia that survival wasn't her story anymore. Grace and legacy had taken its place. Heart Innovation celebrated its 15th anniversary with a nationwide broadcast from their Chicago headquarters. Amelia stood on stage beside Evan, Caleb, and her team, addressing millions. "We began with one laptop and a mother's determination," she said proudly. "Today, we stand united by hope." The crowd erupted with applause. Behind her, a photo montage displayed their journey. Caleb's first prototype, the twins' birth, and the countless schools transformed. She closed her speech softly. "Never underestimate humble beginnings. They often house the greatest miracles." That night, social media exploded with gratitude. Hashtags trended, but Amelia cared only for the joy lighting her family's faces. Later that evening, as celebrations quieted, Amelia walked through the office halls, touching framed photos of milestones. Evan joined her, hands slipping naturally into hers. "You still get emotional," he teased. She laughed gently. "Every line of code tells our story." They stopped by Caleb's workstation, now adorned with sketches of a new educational AI project he was developing for global reach. "Your son's genius amazes me," Evan said. "Our son," she corrected softly. Their reflection glowed on the glass wall, one family bound not by bloodlines but by resilience. Legacy wasn't inherited here. It was earned through enduring grace. Across the city, a quiet memorial service for Grant took place at a small community center. The youth group he'd once volunteered with spoke fondly of his honesty and encouragement. "He told us to lead with truth, not titles," one teen shared. Though few attended, sincerity filled the room. A framed quote hung on the wall: "Integrity outlives reputation." Amelia hadn't known about the memorial until days later when a letter arrived. A thank you from a youth center for Grant's anonymous donations. She folded it gently, tears of closure softening her eyes. Maybe redemption found him after all, she whispered. Caleb visited Grant's grave privately one morning, placing a single white rose. I don't hate you, he murmured. You made choices, and I learned from them. Mom taught me forgiveness. Wind rustled nearby trees like soft applause. He set down a photo, his graduation day, and smiled faintly. I made it, Dad. Standing tall, he exhaled years of inherited pain. Back in the car, Amelia waited quietly. Caleb entered, eyes clear. You okay? She asked. Yeah, he said, smiling faintly. Feels lighter now. The drive home felt shorter. Healing had moved from possibility to permanence, finally resting in every heart. That evening, Amelia tucked the twins into bed while Caleb adjusted his college schedule online. Evan entered holding a mug of tea, sitting beside her. You know, he said softly, every challenge tried to break you, but all it did was refine you. She smiled, eyes misty. And you kept believing even when I didn't. The twins stirred, murmuring, Mama. Amelia kissed their foreheads. Sleep, my miracles. The hallway clock ticked steady like a heartbeat. For once, silence didn't feel empty. It felt whole. Tomorrow promised new beginnings. But tonight, peace itself was enough, a victory sweeter than ambition. Months later, Caleb's new invention launched, a learning platform integrating empathy-based AI guidance for students. It received global recognition. At the press event, he introduced Amelia on stage, saying, My mom taught me that success isn't climbing higher, it's lifting others along the way. She blinked back tears as the audience rose in applause. Evan joined them, placing his arm around her shoulders. The moment felt divine, not glamorous. The legacy of Heartbreak had turned into heritage. Together, they had rewritten what family, forgiveness, and triumph truly meant. Back home that night, Amelia stood by the nursery window, the twins asleep and moonlight pooling gently across their cribs. Evan wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. Do you ever think about the past? He asked. She nodded. Sometimes, but only to thank it for leading me here. He kissed her temple softly. You made peace beautiful. Her smile reflected faintly in the glass. Outside, Chicago glittered, a city reborn alongside her. For the first time, Amelia didn't feel like the woman who survived pain. She felt like the woman who mastered grace. Years later, Caleb stood before a university audience, delivering his own keynote. My mother's story taught me that broken beginnings build the strongest foundations. He pointed toward the front row where Amelia, Evan, and the twins sat proudly. Applause thundered through the hall. As he stepped down, reporters asked, What keeps you grounded? He smiled. Love that never gave up. The headline the next day read, From Scandal to Legacy, the Heart's Redefined Strength. Amelia read it over breakfast, her heart full. Pain had once been her teacher. Now it was merely history. Grace remained the only lasting narrative. On the 20th anniversary of Heart Innovations, a commemorative plaque was unveiled downtown. Founded on faith, built by forgiveness, Amelia stood before it with her family, the twins grown into bright young women. Caleb handed her a bouquet. You did it, Mom, he said softly. She smiled, eyes glistening. No, sweetheart, we all did. Cameras flashed, but the moment belonged to memory, not fame. A light breeze stirred her hair as church bells rang nearby. She looked to the sky, whispering, Thank you. The story that began with heartbreak ended in harmony. Proof that love's final word is always redemption.